Mesechta Menochos Daf Kuf Aleph Amar Aleph. We're starting with the word Shita, the last word above the white lines in the regular Gemaras. In the Vavachs, I don't know exactly. It's the 27th line, the last word. Anyway, yesterday we learned there's two concepts. There's Kedushas Damim, which is just somebody's Magdish something. He designates this item for Hegdish. So that's Kedushas Damim, and you could do a pigeon. You could redeem it. Then there's Kedushas Aguf. Kedushas Aguf, if you put something in a Kli Sharis, as Kedushas Aguf, you can be paid. Says Gemara that even, we learned that even, Shmuel said, that even if it's Tahir, you can redeem it. So the Gemara asked yesterday, even when it's Tahir, you can redeem it? So why does the Mishnah say the Nitmu? So he says the Nitmu is only because of the Sefer. The Sefer, he wanted to tell us that if it became Kaddish B'Kedushas Akli, and then it became Tamei, so I would say, oh, it's Tamei, but you're going to throw it in the garbage? No, I think you're allowed to redeem it. So that's why he said, Nishanitmu, to tell you, even though it was Nitma, you still have to burn it in the Beis HaSefer. But really telling you could redeem it. So you might
even if it's starved.
If it's starved. Thank you. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Sha'akol nihyu b'dvarim.
Amen.
Oh, I'm so thirsty. So the Gemara is asking now, but if the kli if it was niskadish in a kli sharis, to tell me something that has kedushas aguf ein lam pidyon, pshita, it's pashit. Kedushas aguf ninu. It's the kedushas aguf. If the Gemara eats, we need it. I would have thought to say, hoylu bal mum ikri tamei. Since a bal mum is called tamei, has the same term in the Mishnah. The bal mum is called tamei. That the behemoth is tamei. How did the behemoth come tamei? Because it was a bal mum. So I would say tamei namik bal mum tamei. I would say the din of tumah has the same din as a din of a bal mum. That what? Afagav the kaddish kedushas aguf. What's a mum? A bal mum. There was a Torah Dika Behema, and the Torah Dika Behema became possible because of the mum. So even though he was Magdish Behema, became Kaddish B'Kedushas Aguf, Kinaf Bei Mum Mifik. If a mum falls in it, we say you could redeem it. So I would say Hani Navili Farik. Here I should say the same thing. But if it went into a Kli Sharis, but you have the din, and then it became Tamei, to have the din like by Balmum, just like by a Balmum, you can be paid, even though it's Kaddish Kedushas Aguf. I should say so too. A Menochos, that Mincha that became this Kaddish B'Kli Sharis, even though it's Kaddish Kedushas Aguf, you should be able to redeem it, because Mum and Tamei is the same thing.
What happens if if it became Tamei? Or
if it became Tamei? Which one? By the Menochos.
It
was Kaddish B'Kli Sharis.
Yeah.
It should have the same din as by a behema, which has a mum, we call it tamei in the Mishnah. A behema that has a mum, we call it tamei. So just like a behema bal mum, we say once it gets a mum, you could be paida. You should be able to be paida by menachos that became tamei, even though it went through a kli sharis, because mum and tamei they have the same din.
Even though it's kedushas aguf.
Even though it's kedushas aguf, you should be able to redeem it. Kamash malan the lav k'ay tamei kari achman lebal mum. Says the Gemara, no, something that's niskadish b'kli. That's not compared to mum. It's not called. So the Torah Taka compared Baal Mum to Tamei, but Benegay to Pidyon, it's only if it wasn't the Skach B'Kli Shares. Only if it wasn't, once it was in the Skach B'Kli Shares, you cannot redeem it. Even by a behema which has a mum, you can redeem it. But if they did shchita on it, Shchita, the sakin, is considered as a kli sharis. If there was a sakin that did the shchita, you won't be able to redeem it. As long as it's chai, and it gets a balmum, you could be paid it. But once they...
Even though you designated for
even though you designated for a cup. But once you did shchita, a sakin, which is called kli sharis, any kli sharis that has... a virkum.
I
don't know about smicha.
Before the shchita.
It's before the shchita.
So if you did smicha on this, so maybe it's an you know mekazayin.
Smicha is only with the Rabbanan. We said it's only it's the Rabbanan dikazach. It's nicht it's
not
a tough. It's not akif. Good. Anyway, so we said it's even a balmon. If it went through a klishot, it's the sakin. It would not be. You would not be able to be redeemed. The klishot le'ashachin the mifrik. We don't find anywhere that something was in Scottish to a klishot is that you should be able to be paid it. You cannot be paid it. Says Gemara Balmum. What do we find? A balmum is called tamei. Says Gemara in Kol Behemoth Meya Asher LaYakim Menochos Hashem. It says if any behema that was tamei that you cannot be makar hakam Hashem haven't sabein melefnei akayin. At the end of the pasuk, I'm reading from the side, and they'll put the behema in front of the kain. I say can you be kachim? So the Gemara says, but balimumim shenivim hakas medav. That pasuk where it says the in kol behema is talking about balmum. Says Gemara, how do you know? Maybe it's talking about a chamer, a gomel, that the sus gomel the chamer. That's the pasuk talking about the im kol behema tmeya. That not that it got a mum, that it was tummy. It was a tummy de behema lechatchila. It was a sus. It was a gomel. It was a chamer. Says Gemara. Is kisho ema ve'im ba behema tmeya ufada be'agecha hare behema tmeya amura. In ba behema we have a pasuk before that. And I'm sorry, in the hemshch of that pasuk, which one is that? Chav Zayin. The other one is Yud Alf Yud Beis. So this pasuk in the hemshch, the later pasuk already speaks about behema tmeya. So ha ma ani mekayim be'im kol behema tmeya. If there's a befedish pasuk, a couple of psukim down that talk about a behema, which is a chamer sus or gamol, so what is the previous pasuk when it says behema referring to? Obviously, it's talking about a different case, by a case of behema tahira, and how is it a tmeya? Because it has a balmum. I would have thought you could redeem, even though it's a mum. That's going to go away. Talmud Leima, Asher Laikim Menochos Hashem. B'mi she'eina kevil Hashem kol ikha. Has to be such a mum that you can never be makriv. Oh, but she'eina kevil hayoim ukevil yatzaz azul. It's excluding that if it has such a mum that she'eina kevil hayoim ukevil amachat. There, the halacha is that you could not be paid. Moisei Rav Huna bar Manoach. Rav Huna bar Manoach is the kash from the Sefer of our Mishnah, because we explain in the Reisha that you can redeem Menochos u'nesachim before it's nigdash b'kli, right? Says the Gemara, Rav Huna. So he is Rav Huna bar Manoach from the Sefer of the Mishnah. Says ha'efes v'ha'etzim v'halavayno u'klei shorish shenitnu. Birds, wood, spices, and clay shorish that became tamei. Ein pigeon. We say there's no way of redeeming it. Why? Shaloi nema. In the statement in the Torah, it doesn't say in the Torah anywhere about pigeon. Ela behema, only by behema, and it says twice behema, and the koifel of behema comes to tell you by behema is from the Indian of pigeon, even though it has a mum. Bishleima le'oifes. Not even because with a mum, you can redeem it. Even though it's kaddish b'kedushas haguf. Says Gemara Bishleima Eifes Kedushas Haguf Dino. By Eifes I understand it's Kedushas Haguf. So from the moment that he was makdish it was royal to be a carbon, and therefore you don't need kiddush b'kli to make it Kedushas Haguf. So
a behema
a behema is also the same thing, the Eif and behema. But by behema the Torah says the din of B'diyah, but not by Eifes. So he says. Can you learn a we do learn other dinim, but not the inyan of mum, because the whole inyan of mum is learned out from a limud. And if you remember, we said when it comes to hekdesh, you cannot learn out a limud from a limud. So the Gemara veloy nema ela behema. The whole inyan opinion by that there is inyan of B'diyah by kedush zaguf is only by behema. Ela itzmal avayna uklei sharis liparko, says Gemara. They should be, if it wasn't the Scottish B'kli, why shouldn't you be able to redeem it? It's only Kedushas Damim. Right? So why does the Mishnah say they don't have a pigeon? Elalah mishum the Teirim b'yalma. Only because we're talking about a case that they're toy. And by Tahirin, ein nivdin. We said by Tahirin.
What do you mean eitzim at Tahirim?
Tahirin. It's toy.
How's the eitzim?
Something that you designated eitzim for the Maracha.
It doesn't become Mekabel Tumah.
What?
Eitzim is not Mekabel Tumah.
Eitzim, with talking about that it became tummy.
How does an eitz become tummy?
Eitz pashut. Remember we learned already from the shulchan. It's a big piece of wood where you can put a lot of things on it. It's considered that clear.
It's like a keli.
Yeah. Says the Gemara, but so we're talking about that it's tahir, and they have a din as tahir, and you're right. It's so therefore and he holds even though it's tahir, since it's tahir, ein nivdin. It doesn't get. There's no pigeon. And Inami says Gemara, so too by eitzim levena that weren't niskadish b'kli, and so too a kli shareis alpha gav they didn't know, even though they became tummy kitayim damu. They have a din like they are tahir. Because it wasn't the Scottish Bekli, it's Kedushas Damim. So it has a din like Tahirim. So since it has a din like Tahirim, so therefore it's not, and by Tahirim, this Tana holds that there's no pigeon by Tahirim, only if it's Tmeim. And this type of Tumah by Kedushas Damim, if it's only by Kedushas Damim, doesn't have a din of Tumah. Says Gemara, the Eitzim Lavena La B'nei Eichlin. He says, "B'chal, they're not Oyel Michael." So if so, it's not Shaykh Inya of Tumah Zeichlin. How do you say there's Inya of Tumah if it's not? It's not Shaykh Tumah Zeichlin.
So what kind of Tumah could it be?
Oh, so no. So if it's not Tumah Zeichlin, so how do you say that there's a concept of Tumah? Say lechatchila. Rav Huna is asking why do they have even a din of Tahirim if they're not Royal Machol? If they're not Royal Machol, the whole in of Tumas Eichlin is not Shaykh. He says, because you are designated for Hegdish, something that is designated for Hegdish, we are machshavit as if it's a Eichel Inyan Tumah. So therefore, the Eitzim Kama, the Loi Meshapel Huligzinin, Kolzman, you didn't cut it to the size of the Maharacha. Loi Meskashi, it didn't become Moshe Kabel Tumah because it's only a shtickle holtz. It's nothing. But once you size it up, we say it's Maracha dika holtz. It's Cheshev holtz. So it's like a Machal. Lavena Nami, Kema the Loi Kitcha. As long as you were not Mekadosh B'Kli Shades, Loi Meskashi, it's not Moshe Kabel Tumah. We don't call it Lavena yet, meaning the Lavena of the Beis Hamikdash, till it's Niskadosh B'Kli Shades. It says Gemara Kli Shades Nami. Even if it became Tomei, it will have a din like it's Torah, but again it's a pigeon. Even though the Klishana became Tomei. Why? It's like a mum over. Hoil the East Lahu Torah b'mikveh. Since you could be Matar b'mikveh, so it has a din like Tahina. It's like Kol Arei Labila.
It's a Tumah Oiba, no?
Yeah, Tumaiba, or you say Kol Arei Labila, since it's right to go to mikveh, it has a din of Tahina. Says I'll say to you, Tahirim, so it's a kasha. On Shmuel says Tahirim, even Tahirim, you could be redeemed. And we said Tahirim is loy nivdin. Says I'm going to say that really it goes like Shmuel, Tahirim alma nivdin. Even Tahirim do get redeemed. The honey.
Like Caitlin did at Torah, right? They weren't
Right.
used yet.
Something that's Torah, Menochos, Nesach, and we said anything that's Torah, you could also redeem it. Shmuel said that, but here it says we concluded Tahirim ain't a nivdin. Says you want to know that's not the pshat here. Really, Tahirim is nivdin. The honey, eitzim loveno klishades. We said they have a din like Tahirim, and it's not nivdin. You can't redeem it. Why? If it's not mishum Tahirim, says you want because of a different reason. Mishum delay shchichi. It's very hard to find such wood, such lavina, such kalim. Yeah. So therefore the Chacham were goizet, exeris Chachamim, that you shouldn't be able to redeem it, because once you redeem it, you're not going to have a replacement. It's very hard to replace it. Says
then you could use it.
So therefore, you cannot redeem it. You have to keep it.
And do what?
It has a din of Torah. We're talking about Torah. Says you want a
So you
bishleima.
could use it, right?
Yeah, of course.
You could use it.
Says you want a bishleima, little vino, clay shorties, the leishchichi. Then I could say it's hard to find levina. So these spices, go find these spices, okay? And the clay shorties also. Allah eitzim mishkashchichi. Eitzim is easy to find. So the mother eitzim nami keeping the ma kol eitzim nimsa to last. Plus any verwärmte holz, any wood that has worms in it, is possible in the mizbeach. Hilkach leishchichi. That's why it's leishchichi. Oh, Papa, if Shmuel would have heard Hadatanya, this that we learned from the Braisa, Hamatvis Tmimim. One who's Magdish, Behemoth Tmimim without a mum, but he didn't do it for a carbon. He did it lebedek habayis, for to fix the base Hamikdash. Ein point they say Allah Mizbeach. It could only be redeemed for the Mizbeach. Why? Because kol harayla mizbeach, anything that's harayla mizbeach, even though you weren't magdish it for the mizbeach, you were magdish it for the bedek habayis. But if you want to be paid it, you're going to only be able to be paid it for the mizbeach because of the cloud. Kol harayla mizbeach, mizbeach lo'ilam. Something that's fit for the mizbeach, you can't take it away from exclude it. So here, this others omit these words. Even though it's Kedushas Damim, because it was Kaddish Bedek Habayis, it wasn't for carbon, but you don't redeem it since it's Tahidim. Hava Hadabay, he says Shmuel would have been Chayzer from Zarah that you could redeem in Achs Nesachim that are Tahidim, right? So Lecheda here, and these are Reilam Ismail. Right at the beginning of the Gemara where it says Amar Shmuel Va'afilu Hein Tahidim. The first words after the Mishnah. Read the first words after the Mishnah. The Mishnah from the beginning of the Pedic. Go to the beginning of the Pedic. Yeah. Right after the Mishnah. You see Gemara. Oh, that's his call. Okay. So he's asking, what are you talking about, Nivdin? All these things are Reilam Mizbeach. You should hold that they're not Nivdin. Because of the Gzeira of the Chacham. Says Gemara because it's Leishkiah, right? No, now he's saying not because of Leishkiah. Kol haraylam is beichene yitzmim zeh. Says Velohi, it's not so. Shmuel heard this drasha. Velohi Hadabay, and he still didn't retract. Why? Lava Mata Hasam, didn't they say over there by Shmuel? By the Eitzim Lavana keeping Leishchichi. Only because it's uncommon. So it's hard to find a replacement. Like the park, that's where we don't redeem it. Hachanami, the shchichim mumim, keeping the shchichim mumim, the apostle behema. He says here too by behema. Most behemoths have a mum. I feel by mentions. It's in the mala mention. It's hard. There's all kinds of women. Keeping the shchichim mumim, the apostle behema. Even if the behema has cataract. Nabi Pasle, it becomes possible. Hilkach, it falls under the category of Loishchichi. And since it's Loishchichi, by a carbon, by Behema, so that's why in an Nivdin. Yeah, but something that's Shchiach, like flour, Menochos, flour or wine, he's not going to, if it's Torah, to redeem it. Yeah. So you might have a Kana Oma. Daf Kimenachim Nesachim Atmeyin is Nivdin. Only if it's Tmayim, the Afghan is arguing on Shmuel. The Afghan says, if Menachos Nesachim, only if it's Tmayim, then you can redeem it, not if it's Tahidim. Tahidim ain't Nivdin. He argues with Shmuel. And Rabbi Yeshaya said the same thing. Tmayim Nivdin. Tahidim ain't Nivdin. So he agrees with that. Igdamri, Rabbi Yeshaya, others say, Rabbi Yeshaya said like Shmuel, Afilu Tahidim Nivdin, that even Tahidim is Nivdin. And here's a third Shita, Rabbi Lazarima, Kulon, all Menachos, all Nesachim, there's a chilik between Tmeim and Tahidim, meaning Tmeim Nivdin, Tahidim ain't Nivdin. It argues with Shmuel also by Tahidim. Chutz, Masir Sefer Shaman Ksachita, Sharei Amra Tahidim Achatosei, and Al Chatosei.
So what is Rabbi? So Rabbi Lezer holds like Rav Kahana?
Rav Kahana, correct. He says Tmeim Nivdin Tahidim, but he gives as one time by Menachos we are Poida. When? By Minchas Chayta. Minchas Chayta is a carbon oil of Yered. It goes according to how much money you have. But what is the din if he was a wealthy man and he designated a behema and then he became poor. State mechatase, he could take from the money of the behema and buy a cup of mincha. What's if he was poor and he designated a cup of mincha? So then he became wealthy. So then it says al minchase, that he redeems the flour, and in addition to the money of the flour, he adds money for a behema al minchase. So that's the only exception that he said that you could redeem it even by a mincha and a something. Meaning, if they're tahinin, this is the only exception that you can redeem it. Zok the Yemara, Rabbi Yeshaya said, Shemaite, I heard, Pigel, the mincha, lefi Rabbi Shimon, ena matama to Messiah Cholin. Rabbi Yeshaya said, I heard that by mincha, if you had a machshava to eat the carbon mincha, you're saving this mincha for a bar mitzvah. Well, so that's Pigel. So Rabbi Shimon said, it's not matama to Messiah which means it cannot be mekabel tumah like other eichalim, because it's osabana. It's pigul is osabana, so it's not called eichal. If it's osabana, nobody can eat it. You can't give it to a kelev. You can't give it to a guy. So therefore, it's not in the get of eichal to be able to be mekabel tumah. The Tanan that we learned in the Mishnah, when something
what
is...
What do we care if it's Makabal Tumah or not? It's Pigel.
What do you mean if it's not Makabal Tumah, there's no Indian of...
So what do you do with it? It's Pigel. You can't have a...
You can be paid, you can't do nothing. No, you can't. There's nothing.
So what's the difference?
He's just telling you another din that Benegeya Tumah Seichlin is only Shaykh by something that's Mutabana, but something that's Asbana is not Shaykh Tumah Seichlin. Okay, and he gives you examples. The Tanan that
because Eichel is Metama Eichel.
Eichel is Metama Eichel. Yeah, he wants to know if he can be Metama others. No, he cannot. Okay, if you want to see more than that, I don't think he says much here. And therefore, if Tumah touches it, it doesn't become Tameh. So he's telling you a Mincha Pigel doesn't have the din of Tumah Seichlin. That's the Chiddush of Rabbi Yeshaya. Okay, says Gemara. Where do we see similarly? The Tanah we learned in the Mishnah Arla. Arla is the first 3 years that you plant a tree. You're not allowed to have enough from the payers. Uklaya Kedem, if he puts in seeds of wheat between 2 vines within 3 amas, is kalayim. You can't have enough. Sher aniskel, a sher that killed a person, and Bezdin paskin that she have skila and skila. And he shechted it. It's not an avela. He shechted it. Once if it's an avela, it's metama. We're talking about does yishachten, so it's an avela. So then the din is that it's not to Masechlin, because nobody can have anah. The Egla Rufa, if we found a base between 2 cities, the one that's closer to, they take a Egla and you decapitate it. So there was a shchita there, he says. So if there was a shchita, it's not mitzad nevela. It's a peda mitzada. What's mitzada? It's mitzada when it gets healed. There are 2 birds. One bird you shecht, and you make the blood go into a cup. You take the live bird, you dip it into the blood, and you spray the mitzada. And nachdem lasst man the bird wegleifen. But you can't have enough in the bird that you shechted. Okay? A pet chameir that you shechted. A pet chameir belongs to, you have to redeem it. But he shechted it. Okay? He shechted it for who? For the guy. Right? And while it's still shaking, it touched another behema, and it became tummy. Or it's a tamidik behema. It's not a tummy, he says. Because it's asbana. Or bas becholav, and bas becholav. Kulam etamim. No, he says, all of these are matame to Masechlin. It is. Even though it's asbana, it still has a din of eichel inya tumah. Reb Shimon kulam einim etamim to Masechlin. We're going now back to Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon says anything that's asbana, he's nicht genoichel, and it's not matama to Masechlin. But later Reb Shimon to the Tanakama who says that they're all matama oichlin, he said Reb Shimon says it's not because they're not oichlin. When it comes to bas mechalov, shem matama to Masechlin, bas mechalov will be Metama to Mesechlin. Why? The Cholav and the Basa itself, even kosher. Only it became possible because they cooked it together. It says, okay, sagt die Rabbi Asi, Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Asi said the name of Rabbi Yochanan, my time to Rabbi Shimon. Why? What's the reason of Rabbi Shimon? That it's not going to be a eichel. He says because it says Mekola eichel asher yachel yitma. So it says asher yachel. The extra words asher yachel is extra. Mekola eichel. What do you have to say asher yachel? That's all. Only a eichel that others can eat. Kari eichel is called eichel. Eichel that you cannot give others to eat. To a goy or to a keller. Ain't a kari eichel is not called eichel. Therefore, it's not metama to mesechlin because it's not called eichlin. It's asmana according to Reb Shimon. In fact, the Gemara up is Pigol bemincha nami eichel sheyato yachal achil achenim hu. Pigol, when somebody was magdish a mincha and he had the machshava to eat it lacha azman, right? After a lot of time, it's asmana, right? So it shouldn't be considered as eichel, right? You say it's pigol tuna seifa. That's the only way out. It has to be burnt. So according to Reb Shimon, this mincha is not metama to mesechlin, right? According to Reb Shimon. In fact, if so that eichel sharoyla hachila achenim we said will have a din tuma. So in fact, bas b'cholav nami. Why did the Bryce have to tell us that Shimon is made that it's metama to mesechlin? Because it once had a shas hakosh. I can give you a better reason, like we just said. Technically, the eichel shata yach la'achila la'achenim hu. It's a meichel that you give others to eat. The Tanya we learned in the Bryce, Shimon ben Yehuda Shimon bas b'chalos b'achilu mutbana. It's mutbana. Shenami ki am. How do you know? It says the word am kodesh here. Ki am kodesh atal Hashem l'kacha lo yisavash gdil b'chalei b'imay. And it says again about am kodesh lo halanoima by the east of treifa. It says again ba'anshe kodesh tiyuli. It's referring to am kodesh, right? Ubas basada treifa lo yisechelu. That's by treifa, and you make a gzeda shava from am kodesh to anshe kodesh. It's the same thing. It's a gzeda shava. Mala halom. Just like by treifa asbachilu mutbana. Just like by treifa it's asbachilu and mutbana. Afkan asbachilu mutbana. So too by the bas v'chalav, since it says am kodesh and we compare it to treifa, so it's asbachilu but it's mutbana.
We learn in Rashi. There's three times basa v'chalav. One is the achila. One is handoff. What's the third one? Do learn it.
Yeah, but I don't know by basa v'chalav. So like Yomara chad v'eit kama. I don't think so. Chad v'eit kama. He says two reasons. Number one, one reason is the eichel shata yachal achila achedim. One is because it's eichel that others can eat. That's why it is mekabel tuma. It has a din of eichel.
Others can eat. You mean
a goyim can eat it. Yeah, mutbana. Goyim can eat it. And another reason, l'didei nami, even if it's for the yid who cannot eat it and cannot have a no, but it will still have a din of eichel because at one time the bas hamichal was given mutter when it wasn't mixed together. Meisei, in fact, the Gemara Akash ben Lib following Brayse says Abshim Naima yesh neis shu metama to mesechlin yesh neis shein metama to mesechlin. There's two different dargis of noisa. There's noisa that's metama to mesechlin, and there's noisa that's not. Keitzad, for Gemara, how's it? Says Gemara, a bus of a carbon that lon means it's a chibig nacht. It went overnight, the night lifnei azika before they sprayed the blood. So there was never a heta in the basa. And the Isa of Lina came, and once the Isa of Lina came, you can't have Anah. And there was no Shas HaKosher. The Shas HaKosher is when there was a Zika of Dam. The Zika's Adam is Mata de Behemah, the crumb. But he didn't do Zika. And there was a Lina, and once there's Lina Tzas Banah, and there was no Shas HaKosher, So then, any matama tumas eichel that has no din of eichel.
What does he refer to? What item? What kind of item?
We said there's a noisar.
Basa.
There's basa
After the
noisar.
shechita, right?
After the shechita, he says there's a basa noisar that doesn't have a din of achila. And there's a basa noisar that has a din of achila. Which is the basa noisar that does not have a din of achila? That the zika would be matet, he shechted it, he's still asa, till he's mazik the dam. But he didn't spray the dam, so it was always asa. And then there was a lina. Once there was a lina, so there was no shas hakaisha, so it doesn't have a din of achila. So it's not metama tumas eichlin. La chazika, but what's if it was after the spray of the blood? Metama tumas, and then there was a lina, metama tumas eichlin. Because after the zika is the behemoth sheyivan mutter. The behemoth, the basa was mutter, but he didn't eat it. He let it go lina. So since
what's that to do with it? Somebody touches, right?
Noisa, we're talking about Noisa. Noisa is lina usually. Then there is tumas eichlin because there was a shas hakaisha. Right after the shechita there was a zika. Pigol, by pigol of a basa carbon that there was a machshavas pigol beim kachim kalam ain't metama tumas eichlin. Is not metama tumas eichlin. Says the Gemara, that's by pigol because pigol. The Chatchila made everything else by no right at the beginning. Pigo by mincha, metama tumas eichlin. Pigo by a mincha, a flour carbon, it is metama tumas eichlin because it had a shas hakaisha. So says the Gemara. So we have a stira. Here it says by a mincha, pigo, minchas pigo. Reb Shimon said before, it's not metama tumas eichlin because it's pigo, right? And here it says it is matamas tumas eichlin. How do we learn the pshat? It's a stira. It says you want to learn kasha. That's not a kasha. Kasha is la shas hakaisha. Before he was magdish this flour for a mincha, right? There was a din of tumas eichlin. There was a din of eichlin because it was a shas hakaisha. So therefore, it has the din of once it's nispagel. Therefore, that's considered.
Before he made a pickle, it was shas hakaisha.
Shas hakaisha, yeah, because it was cut. The tvul was cut, and it was shas hakaisha.
Well, it was already. He was able to be makravit, but he
before he even designated it was a food that you can eat. Kan. Here, Rabbi Yisha is talking about by a mincha shaloi haisel shas hakaisha. That before he was magdish it, right? Before he was magdish it wasn't kosher because if it's mechuba is not considered, is not mekabel, it's not mushal kabel tuma. Yeah, he says shaloi haisel shas hakaisha. Heichidam, how's the case talking about? The loy haisel shas hakaisha. What's the case that there was no shas hakaisha before he was magdish? Says you want to magdish? He was magdish the chitim b'mechuba while it was mechuba lekarka. When it was mechuba lekarka, there was no shas hakaisha because it's not moshe lekabel tuma while it's mechuba, and it was already mugdish and there was pigol, so it was never shas hakaisha. In fact, what about lifrikino? Let him redeem the chitin or the seiles. Meaning you can redeem it and eat right. Let him redeem it and eat it even if he was magdish it. As long as it wasn't mukdish b'kli, he didn't put it into the kli sharis. It has a din of kedushas damim. So let him redeem it. So l'chayra there before he put in the kli sharis, there was a shas hakaisha because he could have redeemed it. Says you want to hanich lishnaber Rabbi Yishaya tmeim nivdim tmeim nivdim shaper. If you go according to the man of Rabbi Yishaya says Tahirin you cannot be paid. So you can't say there was a shas hakaisha because he was able to be paid it. He holds that you can't be paid it, so there's no shas hakaisha. The pdiya is the part that makes it a shas hakaisha. But according to the lashon, the Omar that Rabbi Yishaya said afilu Tahirin nivdim. So there's a shas hakaisha. He could have been paid it, and it would have been mutter to eat it. Lifrikino, let him redeem it. And now it's a shas hakaisha, so consider it as a Michael. I says hashtami loy parit, but b'peil mamash he didn't redeem it. Says the Gemara. So the Gemara asks on that answer, but since if he wanted, he could have been paid it. Shabinu Rab Shimon the Amar, Kol Ha'omer Lepades, Kipode Dami. It's like Kol Ha'roya Lebila, Kibila Dami. It's the Tanya that we learned in Abraham said, Rab Shimon the Amar, by the Para Aduma, Mitama Tumasei Chalin, has a din of Tumasei Chalin, even though you're not allowed to have hana from the Para Aduma. Why? By the Para Aduma had a Shasa Kaisha. How? V'amar Ishlakish. Oima Rab Shimon. Oima Hoya Rab Shimon. Parish and leave this. Agabi Marachta. A Para Aduma. You can even redeem it when it's on the Maracha. You mean even if it's geschachten in pieces and you put it on the Maracha, you could redeem it for a fatter behemoth, a fatter Para Aduma. So you see that even though he didn't redeem it, but you say Kol Haroya live days, because the Para Aduma you say it's metama to Meseichlin. Says you want to haki hashta. Could you compare a mincha to a Para Aduma? Bishleima Para immediately Paras. A Para, it's a mitzvah. It's always you're always looking for a better one. It's so rare to find a Para Aduma. So you're not going to choose the best one by a Para Aduma. You found this Para Aduma, even though it's skinny like a skeleton, you're going to grab it because it's a rare thing to find. But you're ultimately Padas because you want to find a fatter behemoth. Which is always you can pick out the best flour. You can find the best flour. So the mitzvah of Dyson is a mitzvah to redeem it. If you chatchila chose the best, you're not going to have to redeem it. By the Para Aduma, it's a rare thing. So you grab even the skinny nothing, and that's why the Torah says a mitzvah of Dyson because it's a rare thing to find. And if you find a bigger one, you redeem it. But here it's not a mitzvah of Dyson, so we don't say Kol Haroya live this kipad dami. Stop right there.